When The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening first launched in 1993, I could have been farther from its target demographic. I didn't like role-playing games or anything that approximated them at the time. My earliest Zelda memory was playing the NES original and not knowing what the fuck was going on, and then promptly giving up on it. And Link's Awakening was released on the Game Boy. I had to fight like hell to get my parents to give me a Super Nintendo. There was no way in hell they were getting a Game Boy. It would be years before I gave another Zelda game a shot. Once I fell into the rabbit hole of Japanese role-playing games, I decided maybe my previous perceptions of Zelda were perhaps incorrect and maybe I should give them a shot. I enjoyed the hell out of Links to the Past, but it pretty much stopped there, until Breath of the Wild. In fact, Breath of the Wild is one of the only reasons why I own a Switch, and I have put way too many hours on that one. When Nintendo announced they were releasing Link's Awakening on the system with updated visuals, I thought to myself, what the hell, let's give it a go. The game plays like how you would expect a classic top-down Zelda title to play. You control Link, who, according to the opening cinematics, was riding on some gnarly waves out in the middle of a stormy ocean on a rickety raft for some reason, before inevitably becoming shipwrecked. He washed ashore on a mysterious island. After collecting his sword and shield, he's greeted by an owl who tells him he has to gather instruments to wake the windfish. And with that, you set off on your way. The gameplay is as crisp as you'd expect, attacking enemies with your sword as you'd expect, and after obtaining new tools and completing various dungeons, you get some pretty awesome weaponry. The basics are here like the bomb, the hook shot, and after a lengthy series of trade-based fetch quests, the boomerang. The story is pretty thin, but interesting. There's not much I can say that won't spoil the twist, suffice it to say that the twist is hinted at right away and never deviates. The world in Link's Awakening is different too, as it's not set in Hyrule as it usually is. Instead, it's on Koholint Island, where Link comes to after his shipwreck. The goings-on Koholint are odd for a Zelda game to say the least, as there are numerous times when there are hints at breaking the fourth wall, including numerous references and direct parodies or homages to other Nintendo games. There are Goombas you can jump on, Yoshi dolls you can collect, side-scrolling Mario-style levels, even a Kirby whose ass you have to kick. It makes some sense once you realize that the series director, Takashi Tezuka, was inspired by Twin Peaks and modeled much of the world after its ethereal oddness, much in the same way that Twin Peaks was populated by a host of odd characters whose orbit grew closer to the outsider Dale Cooper as he neared the center of the town's mysteries. So too does Koholint's weird cast of characters circle Link, such as Grandpa Ulurara, I don't know that guy's name, but he's the one who talks to you on the phone only, but he's shy in person, Madame Meow Meow and her chomp chain Bow Wow, and the numerous other people like Prince of the Frogs and, the health spa lady. It makes perfect sense that it's modeled after Twin Peaks, or at least was influenced by it, and at many points in playing it, you may sense that same oddness about it too. None of that is distracting from the fun of the gameplay, however. It's still a blast to use your tools to move about Koholint. You can collect heart containers to increase your health, pick up power-ups and temporarily increase your offense or defense, or find all sorts of clever different ways to defeat pesky enemies. Here's a hint. Once you get the jar, try using the dust on the flying enemies that spit out bombs. One thing I will say is this game is definitely a Nintendo Power game. That is to say, if you played this game when it came out in 1993, you weren't getting anywhere in it without Nintendo Power. This is part of why I couldn't get into Zelda back in the day. My parents sure as hell weren't going to get me a subscription to Nintendo Power. Without access to that, there's no telling how long it would have taken to figure out some of these esoteric quests. Luckily, I live in the internet age, and websites like Polygon have great walkthroughs to help me figure out the ins and outs of all these weird quests. The trading sequence alone was enough to give me a headache, but figuring out how to get that magnifying glass and the book and the mermaid scale, my god, it would have been unfair for anyone who didn't have the income to purchase those magazines. Luckily for the Switch generation, you have better access to information now, so don't take it for granted. This isn't a difficult game at all, on the normal setting at least. In fact, it's not even that much more difficult on hard mode thanks to unlimited continues and a very kind respawn system that restarts you at this last checkpoint with full health and whatever progress you had made in the dungeon previously saved. People looking for a tough game will be out of luck, but fuck you people anyways. You have Dark Souls and Sekiro to lean on. I'm just happy to have a fun and enjoyable romp around a wacky fantasy world. I'm going to start rating these games in a different manner now, a manner that makes more sense in the context of my general gaming experience. You see, I have a hard time finishing games. If a game doesn't completely captivate me, I'll usually ditch it at some point and be content to never return to it. I've got a lot of other shit to do, and I don't feel compelled at all to waste my time playing something I don't enjoy. So if I actually complete a game, it is an accomplishment, and it means something. It's a strong seal of approval, as strong a seal of approval as I can give. So, I guess that says a lot about Jedi Fallen Order at least, a game I completed despite piling on a mountain of caveats in my review, which is interesting considering that I bailed on the Game of the Year Sekiro after about 10 minutes, but that's a story for another time. How does Link's Awakening stack up? Well, I beat this one too, and I'm halfway into my hard mode playthrough. Link's Awakening is thoroughly fun, and I highly recommend it to any and all Switch owners.